So my understanding experience, and this is what I look for when I hire my team, is like, are you someone who can create something out of like an interpersonal relationship?
At Elements of Culture, we sit down with experts in leadership and team building to explore the DNA that drives a thriving organization.
Hi, Santu, and welcome to Elements of Culture.
Hey, Laura, great to be here.
It's
Thanks.
fantastic to have you. I know we've previously connected, and I'm obviously very familiar with your career, but walk us through how you've ended up where you are today, some career highlights, just to give our listeners a little bit of context.
Sure. Yeah. It has been all sales, and there's something about sales that kept me going. I mean, to be very honest, the first experience was an opportunity and a chance, and let's try what happens. And yeah, the day I hit the floor, I was able to do like the best numbers for the day.
Let's
And
go.
that was like a moment that, yeah, now
Predictive.
you're the one, and like there's something from the top, right? And yeah, I mean, after that, there's been a lot of learning. I mean, people say that, yeah, you're either a born sales guy or you're not. But then there's a lot of learning as well. And people who have it in them, they definitely build on it. They have to build on it. And as you can see today, the phenomena of sales has changed. The way things happen have changed. So my early career, I've been very fortunate. I learned from the bosses. I mean, today, if I tell you, they are some of the biggest in the industry, and they handheld and coached me, and I was able to take a lot of my foundation from there and have been able to build on it. So just to quickly summarize, I started off with a well-known tech BPO company called 24/7 AI. And then from there, I got into software sales and landed in cybersecurity. Did that for like more than 10 years. And I still advise with a cybersecurity company
Wow.
and their GTM strategy. And also GRC, if you know, governance, risk, compliance.
Yeah.
That was one of like the maximum learning in the early stage. Even I had the opportunity of presenting and working with the board at a very young age. So yeah, a different mindset altogether. I mean, sometimes I feel I'm a bit older than my peer group. Yeah. And that's sometimes not so good. I mean, you tend to think, yeah, you're a lot more mature. You have other things to do, bigger things to do, but you're not enjoying. Yeah.
I love it. Awesome. So you basically started from the bottom and now we're all the way out. So just talk to us about your current role and where you are.
Yeah. Yeah. So I lead the GTM and revenue operations for a company called RevOps. I'm the CRO. And that means that you have to deliver on the revenue and all the possibilities, the untapped market, the TAM, how you're addressing it, everything. Right. And it specializes in automating your tech stack, enabling the revenue operations leaders closely with the CROs, the CMOs in automating their entire funnel, their process, their flow, and
Nice.
also the custom integrations and development. So it's very interesting and fascinating. So all the combination of my experience, we're working with a cybersecurity company that's like growing at a fast pace. On the other side, we are helping a large oil and gas company that everyone knows, particularly.
That's
Uh,
insane. So now you've ended up as the CRO, so you tie all the revenue together. So walk us through right now. You have obviously a team of revenue contributors, I presume, and then you're just scaling the business in terms of that go-to-market strategy.
yes, absolutely.
I love it. And then just looking on your whole experience, we talk a lot about high performance. We talk a lot about what makes a good rep, what makes a bad rep. And just from your experience, there's two roles that I love to talk about, right? Is A, the frontline sales leadership role, because I'm super fascinated by that role, because arguably I think it's the most important role. But we can get to that. But just going into like high performance of individual contributors, what do you feel like is the common trait that they seem to have? Like, what makes them so like high performance on that level?
Sure. So, and I'll take an example of my own experience of
I love this.
like closing deals
We love
where
personal examples.
Yeah, yeah. And if I look back, and it's sometimes really fascinating because I did not do the best demo that day. I did not do all the right things on the rule
100%.
book that you have. But something I did different, something I did well, that my prospect, my customer remembered me from that meeting to the happy hour that we went to the next meeting where he introduced me to the power guy,
Love it.
right? To the thing that happened behind all the discussions. Like, I'm not saying that there was some kind of conspiracy. I'm saying how the decisions are made, how the trusts are built, right? So, my understanding experience, and this is what I look for when I hire my team, is like, are you someone who can create something out of like an interpersonal relationship, right? You don't have to be
So
following the ABC all the time, always be closing. It can be something else. It can be XYZ of yours. But is that good enough to keep your customer, keep your prospect, keep your relationship on like high octane, some kind of like next thing, next thing, next thing? So that I think is number one for me.
I am. I actually couldn't agree with you more. And like sometimes I like to challenge people on this podcast, but like truly that's exactly what I believe. So there's like all the frameworks like medic, Sandler, whatever you want to say. And like
All good. Challenger sales, and
all
I've done
good,
all of that. Yeah.
all good. And like if you have someone that can follow the process, A, B, C, D, perfect. Like if they work hard, they're coachable and they can follow the process, they're very likely going to make
That's
it.
good. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then there's the people that I call like the really, really high level people within the team that you don't
Right.
really know why they're so successful.
Yeah.
And then they become leaders themselves, but can't coach on why they're so successful. And it really is just down to that social IQ and that ability. And just like, you don't have a deal if you don't have a champion, right? But it's navigating your champion to build your trust and build that excitement and have that social IQ and all that kind of stuff. That I'm like, I don't know who I prefer coaching, to be honest. Sometimes the easier
Yeah.
ones are just the ones that are just going to show up, be coached, take feedback, and follow it. And then I kind of
Yeah.
find like the diamonds in the rough to be actually quite hard to coach because I'm like, I can kind of see why you're where you're getting because I'm watching your calls, but
Yes.
I can't really
Yes.
teach that to the rest of the team.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll just add to that what you said. If I don't like the guy, if I don't like the girl, just the way I engage, right? I tend not to hire, right? As simple as that. Even if my management is telling me that they have the Ivy League qualification, they have this and that, and they've done uh, 10 different things. I have to like the person. I have to see that, okay, there's some spark, something different, right? So that I think goes a long way. Yeah.
100%. I completely agree. So, in terms of just like looking at sales teams or even just revenue performing teams, when have you come into an environment where you've identify that there's a problem, right? There's clear gaps. Either they're underperforming or either there's just something wrong within the team. Have you got like a clear process that you know, okay, if I get hired for this company and I'm CR or I'm VP of sales or whatever that may be, and the team is underperforming, do you go through that process? You're like, okay, first of all, I identify who's the best, who's the worst, who's worth spending time on. Then I give them a clear process. Or like, what does that look like for you? Because I think a lot of our listeners here are just like, how do you revive like not a dying sales culture, but like a lot of the times people are hired to save a team, right?
Yes, yes. You don't have the luxury always to hire everybody from
Exactly.
scratch and stuff, right? You get a team, and then it's always the case that it's just like how you have your right hand and the left hand. One is more strong, the other one is not so strong, kind, but you need both hands to make things happen, right? And I've seen that happen. Like always, I've managed teams up to like 35 people in
Yeah.
my team, right? So ideally, as a CRO, I would want to know everything that the team is doing, but that's not humanly possible, right? And you don't want to do that because if you're doing that, you better do yourself while you're hiring people, right? It's gonna look like you're just like a micromanager. So what I feel is that there are always a 10% or 20% who are doing more things right, and they're getting either through their spark or through their like assets that they're able to use on their conversations and relationship building, etc. And then there are those who are taking it just like a job, right? There's a there's money that they make. Yeah, they may be a little bit motivated with the incentive and the commissions, but then they're not internalizing it fully, that what company you work for, what brand do you work for. And I've seen like people who take pride in putting a logo on the company's website. They almost always, I would say like 90% times, the people that have been more successful, somewhere in their conversation, in the interview or later, or in a like a casual moment, they say, I'm so proud I put it there. I mean, in some of those lighter moments, right, when they are like
Yeah,
a little bit excited, they would say, man, I did it. And so that passion has to be there,
for
right? So
sure.
those people are there, and there are those who just taking it like a job, and then there are those who need immediate, like a revival, I would say. But you don't want to spend a whole lot of time in reviving those. Rather, you take the middle. I think it's the middle 50,
100%.
60% people where you can do the magic. I mean, if you're a good leader, right? Otherwise, just to fire people, there are like many people who can do that. But if you can take some of that data, create that passion, create that fire, you can't change them completely, but you can definitely create some more motivations and a drive with some leading by example, and like inculcating a little bit of that, like this is what happens if you get here and the next and all that. So I think that is where some of the leaders are magical, and I've had some of those bosses and mentors. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Completely agree. I think it's like split into three buckets, right? I think it's split into the people that are top performers. And for them, they need like recognition, they want growth, they want development, they
Yeah.
want to be in a vehicle that's going to get them to their next goal. If you can give them that plus like an insane comp plan, you've got to make them not want to leave because they'll
Yeah.
drive the business. And
Yeah.
then and then it's the middle part. That's the really hard part because it's like I've got like 10 people here. I know a few need to go. Who's got the time I want to put in to make sure I can get them to
Yeah.
those top people and who should like transition out? Then once you've split those two, it's like a lot of leaders I find are not educated because they were just top performers and don't know how and don't have a process to actually then get those buckets on how to get them up to the top performers. Because if you're the top performers on like an excellence plan and the mid
Yeah.
performers on to get to excellence, I think that would make revenue targets a lot easier to hit, which obviously widely missed across like whole B2B SaaS, whatever. But I really am passionate about that. Like once you've identified, because there's an also the thing of like you just don't want to be spending time on people that honestly are just never going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. They're not cut out. They're just there by chance or something, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And anyone can win an interview. And I think it's silly for a manager to say that they've hired 100% 10 out of 10, right? You're always going to have a mishire,
Never.
but you just have to
In fact,
acknowledge.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, on just that one, sorry, Laura.
No, no,
So
please.
it was like almost always you have to know that the four that you're hiring in one cycle, right?
Yeah.
It's probably just 20% that's going to work out. You have to be ready for the next set of like four to backfill the ones that are going to go in the next like 3 months or so. Yeah. So that has to continue.
100%. And I actually think like, like I don't know, any sales role, there's so much education out there for individual contributors. It's almost just like, where do you even begin? But I think there is a
Yeah.
lack in education in terms of sales leadership and what their role actually is, because 90% of their role really should just be quality control, understanding what the rep's doing, giving them 2, 3 things to implement in the next day and moving deals through
Yep.
the cycle. But when I work with a lot of RVPs or even a lot of VPs where that's not always the case and they get caught up with like strategic incentives and they get caught up with like delivering stuff to the CRO, when actually their number one thing is to get the team to believe and change with them and be that vehicle, and then make sure that they're performing and give them feedback on why they're not performing.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time with the top performers. To be very honest, I've seen that the top 10 or 20%, they don't need a lot of motivation. They do it for themselves. They have it inside that they have to be successful. I mean, they have no other option not to be successful, right? Like they just do it for themselves. So you don't need to spend a whole lot of time for that 10, 20%. They're on the track, but then if they get overconfident or they be disrespectful to the other team members, that's when you need to jump in and say, hey, let's talk, right?
Um,
But the other guys who have probably not got the right coaching at the right time, or they have not been like very lucky to get the right type of mentors in their early years. Those are the guys where you need to spend some more time. You need to be on their calls, you need to coach them, you need to be with them and say that here's how I would do it differently, these are the motivations, and prove them. I mean, a lot of times I've seen is like some of these guys, they try to prove you wrong. You as a leader, you're not capable enough to coach me. I'm the dude here. Yeah, I have more. I mean, I'm better than you. You're an oldie or something like that. So I've had those scenarios where, okay, let's do it now, and this is what the customer's saying, and let's bet on this, right? That I take you for a really good dinner if this is happening this way or that way, kind of thing. So you engage. I mean, the person has to be like trusting you that you really care for their success. That's I think very important for those people who are willing to improve and willing to work with you. Rest you should just let go quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I honestly genuinely, I completely agree with you with focusing on that top 10% because they're going to be motivated, right? And that's just within them. The only point I was slightly making was you basically want to make it so attractive for them that they want to stay, right? So if you can do things that don't take a lot of time, but make their comp plan, like their accelerators incredible and give them like growth or incentives in that way, then I think that's all that you need to do with them, right? Because it's still great if you've got great people to make them excellent. And then honestly, making that time for those middle people is just incredible because what I think frontline leadership lacks is the understanding and process of actually how to get like a B to an A player. I think if more sales leaders knew a clear process, a clear 60, 90 day of being like, you have an average sales rep, this is exactly every single day the operating rhythm you need to be doing with this rep to get them. If they've got it, I think it would be a game changer for like this like corporate SaaS world in terms of just
Absolutely.
like that role. Do you agree?
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, I've seen. I mean, another thing that I've really seen work very well is that those top 10 or 20% people who do it for themselves and more motivated, and they're like leading by example kind of guys. They also become co-owner to the success of the organization. They help others also in some cases. Of course there are guys who just become very arrogant and they just want to take all the leads, and but then that's not long term. They will just dig their own grave very soon, right? But I have in fact worked with a leader that I know, though he's like not the official CRO or the VP sales, but then with his experience he was able to even coach the three others and the
Yeah.
alongside VP sales and telling things. And that's where I draw a lot of my learning from.
Yeah, I love it. And I think you said something really key there was just like long term. I think everything should be looked at in longevity and sustainability, right? In the sense that people can have a really great quarter or people can have a really great month or something like
Yeah.
that. And it's just like this the whole time in sales or even any revenue operating teams that all the processes and playbooks have to be able to sustain. Because once you've got that like embedded vehicle, performance vehicle or embedded culture, and then it's basically just a case of execution, that's when everyone's
Yes.
like moving in the right direction. The team's going to be growing and scaling. Like I've been part of one company where we grew it pretty aggressively, couple of us employees and then ended up like 220 employees, raised a ton of capital. I've never been able to recreate that culture. Like until you're in it, when you're like around everyone, that it's just like, it's almost like you're doing this for fun and everyone's just like
Yeah.
running for this same outcome. If you can
Exactly.
create that, even if it's with a bunch of mediocre reps, but you can have that type of magic and energy, I think it just changes the entire runway of the business and the state of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like building an army, right? Like, I mean, it's not that the person who's handling the tank versus the one who's flying the plane versus the person who's going out in the field on foot. Everyone is important, right? And you need to create that culture that it's your place, it's my place, and it's our place. We have to make it happen. I mean, often what happens is that sales leaders spend a lot of time with the top performers. They always say that this is making sense, and they're like appreciating the top performers and not engaging much with the rest of the team. So that should not happen. That's like a recipe for failure,
Agreed.
right? Yeah.
Really agree. But do you know what I think it is, why people like it? Because I've led a lot of sales teams myself, is it's just more fun. And I don't mean that in a bad way of like mid-rep performers, but it's like if you're a top performer yourself is probably why you've got to leadership, right? It shouldn't actually be giving you that role because you're a top performer. But 9 times out of 10 in the world that we're in, you're a leader because you're a top performing and you were crushing quota.
Right.
That person, they're going to want to be surrounded by the top performers because it makes your day so much more fun. Like, it's like they're coachable, they want to learn, they're eager to grow. Like, coaching those types of people. And then it actually takes a lot more work to do the other thing. And people shy away from that a bit. And it's just like, and also they just sometimes don't know the process. Like, if you are just a top performer, I don't know how you would know the process. Like, no one's there educating them on actually how to do it. And they might get like one meeting a month with their CRO, but they've lost like a
Yeah.
daily leader.
Yeah. It just happens. I mean, for those who don't understand the process really well and like understand the nuances and what
100%.
levers you need to like change the combinations and permutations, they better not become the leader. So in your early career, when you get that option and you are like a really star performer and you're selfish about your own success, your own money and stuff, those guys usually don't take a senior leader position quickly. If they're like really smart, they just feel that, okay, we're better off this way. We make our own money and all that. So
100%.
I have a lot of respect for those people who realize that and they stay away from all
100%.
those. Yeah, because in a way, becoming a VP sales or CRO, most of the times it's like being responsible for the overall number, for other people's mistakes that miss in a quarter in terms of numbers. But then when everybody's successful, it's the company that performed well. It's the company's quarter that has been great, right? So you have to be ready for that,
Yeah.
and we work with people and win their trust. And yeah, I think it's fun for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really funny what you just mentioned there about just like taking almost ownership. I feel like when anyone asks me about the sales leadership role, I say to them like two things. You've basically not got to want it because it's a financial gain or the title, because your top rep should be outperforming you if their quota is set up properly. Like, that's going to happen. The second thing is you've got to want it for a selfless reason, because all you're going to be doing is taking all the blame, giving all the glory to your team, and just quality control. And what I mean by quality control is just core review, core review, core review. Where can they get better? Where can I educate? Where can I coach? Live deal reviews of forecasting. Like, it's really not that fun. You don't have the buzz of being on with a new person. You don't have the buzz of a sales rep. All the stuff that makes sales reps really good, you lose. And then you just pick up all the rubbish, give the team all the glory, and you're kind of just behind a desk, just like quality control all day. And like, I really try and be like, it's a selfless, not a selfish
Yeah.
job. And they have to understand that. And then 50% of them then go, okay, that's really good to know, and don't take it. And I'm like respect, because the missed opportunity of a leadership hire is even greater. But it's really interesting, isn't it? How it's glorified, it's glamorized. But when you actually think of like the Monday to Friday, what it actually is that you really,
It's a grind. Yeah.
yeah.
It's
And
a
it's, you
grind.
don't have
Yeah.
that like buzz, you know?
Right. Right. And in fact, I mean, even if you're like working on so you won't be lucky all the time that you work on this mid set, right? That's like not that great in their execution and delivery, right? You may or may not succeed. In some cases, you probably have to end of the day let them go, right? But the fact that you put that effort and you work with them and they go to the next place, they get a some of that learning experience and they reestablish themselves. So even today, one funny thing I wanted to share with you around this is
Please.
that I still get calls from the guys who I fired from my team only because that I worked with them. I gave them few coaching sessions or things or that motivation or that confidence, which they carried and they made it happen in the other company. And I can prove it, right? Like this works.
Is honestly unbelievable. And do you know what's so funny just talking about that is like, I've hired like epic performers from like big tech companies that have smashed it every quarter, and they come into like a startup or they come into somewhere different environment and they don't perform. It's honestly bizarre how A, it's down to the leadership, B, it's down to like what you're selling and kind of the sales cycle length. But It's really weird how it can change. Like you can fire someone and give them exactly what they need to coach them into the next role, and then they can go and absolutely crush it. And you're like, wait, how weren't
Yeah.
you coaching it for me?
Yeah, it's a revenge, right? They say that I'll make it happen and I'll prove this. And sometimes, this happened. One guy, he initially for the first time when he cracked his job at Google, some contract kind of a thing and all that, he called me to show that, hey, you hired me, but I found a job here and I'm doing well. Then it's the next time when he got a promotion, he again called me. Then he sends me message that it's all because of like the kind of confidence you had, but then things did not work and all that. So it's still a friend and connection and all the major occasions he's sharing, right? So it happens.
I
Yeah.
love it. Awesome. Well, in terms of just like the teams, where do you kind of see? Because I always think either the biggest gap is whenever I'm coming into like revive a sales team, I'm like, right, it's either a leadership problem. And if it's a leadership problem, you can identify that, or it's a rep problem, right? If it's a
Hmm.
rep problem, all the rep I need it to be is coachable, accountable, and like just follow the process. If they're those things and I go to them and they seem those things, then it's a manager problem not being able to get them there. So what do you see as like the biggest gaps that you see in leadership and in like not even leadership, just like performance that you always look to try and solve like quite immediately?
Yeah. So I think the process is something. So particularly when you see today's sales world, right? The
Yeah,
enterprise or the SMB, I mean, it's really fast paced. You don't have all that luxury and time to slow cook your deals, right? It moves really fast. The customer is moving fast. So, in terms of the process, if they are not tech savvy, if they are not using the tools to the right levels, I'm not saying like they have to be like AI enabled,
yeah, of
completely
course.
super savvy. They need to be just good enough to be able to keeping that funnel game going on, right? They need to have their top 10 deals. They need to be on top of. I mean, it's really not okay for a sales guy to be not knowing their top 10 deals
For
that
sure.
they would be able to close in the quarter, right? So those are some of the things that I look for. I look for one process. And yeah, it's okay if they're not updating the CRM all the time because now we have tech that does that.
Sales reps thing, the CRM.
Happens all the time. We can pick the information and the keywords from your email, from your phone calls, from your
Love
other
it.
things. If you can just automate all of that, not a problem. There are AI enabled CRMs these days, right? But if you don't know on top of your head, at the top of your like, just don't know the 10 accounts that you're working with and what your customer wants, what is the next step, and if there is a bottleneck or a roadblock, what is it that can change, and if you're not asking for help, could be the leadership, could be the board, could be some kind of innovation and all that. If you're not talking, if you're not thinking enough about your top 10 deals, that's my like immediate giveaway that it's not going to
Exactly.
work out.
It's interesting. And then you just mentioned AI. What's your perspective on it, right? Because I'm like, there's so much going around about it. Okay. But I actually think for the good reps that can adopt it in a way that's going to streamline their processes, I think it's just going to make even better, right? Because I look back at when I was building my first company, if I would have had that the level that we have now in terms of pumping out proposals, like I used to sit for hours and create like a proposal on PowerPoint and stuff that used to take forever. So I feel
Yeah.
like there's positives in that it can streamline everything that you need it to streamline. Obviously, then there's negatives in the fact that I'm a massive believer and I still think there's needs to be human interaction at some level, even within prospecting, right? I feel like it's value first, etc. But yeah, what's your kind of thought opinion on it? Like what's your team doing? Because like I think it's an interesting topic.
Yeah, yeah, it's the buzz everywhere. In fact, just the last week I was at Inbound HubSpot, right? The 3 days, 4 days, it was largely about AI and what HubSpot is also doing, right? And Salesforce, we already know the agentic and the agent force and all that, right? So I think you have to be aware, you have to be using the tools to an extent that it presents in the proposals, the even your process in a very sophisticated way. I mean, these days, one of the things that almost every client is looking at is how sharp is your offer, how covered is your contract, etc. So AI can do all that checks and balances, the silly things that you kind of overlook in your contracts can be taken care of. So there are AI tools which will take care of everything from
So
your
many.
quote to proposal to PPT, just like you said, right? But I think the more important thing is to keep in mind the best performing sales guys, as and I'll tie this to my first comment there, that people who are good at relationship building, to be able to navigate and have that great interpersonal skill, they're not always the best people to update CRM and use tech and other things. They're like more human and connected. And then there are, of course, the tech sales team where they are like very specific. So you need to keep that balance. Has to be that enablement wing in
100%.
the company, the sales enablement or the sales operations, where you need to quickly identify that, okay, Bob is a great relationship guy. He knows all the top C levels in the Fortune 500 clients that the company has. But then Bob doesn't update CRM. He doesn't put his next step in the CRM for some reason, because he likes to keep it in his head and he is like so confident about what he's going to do and he improvises. So he doesn't want to put anything on the
We love
paper.
Bob.
Right. But that's the guy you want, right? Who's
Yeah.
bringing you that $10 million deal, right? And how he does is secondary. You don't you do the tools, you do AI, you do enablement for Bob. You don't make Bob do I and all the tools and then not close that $10 million deal, right? So I think that's where the sales enablement and sales ops teams have to take cognizance and quickly create those models which are easy and quick to follow. And if required, give Bob an AI assistant.
And I honestly couldn't agree with you more. It's like we used to have a philosophy at my previous company. It was like, just take as much admin as possible away from your top performers
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just feed them with what they need to be doing on live calls. And I think, like, I remember literally saying to people, like, it was outrageous. Like, I know I say just a sales rep at my first company, but like, I honestly felt like I needed a PA. I was like, the amount of collateral that needs to be built for all of these like multi-million-dollar deals. And now AI is just there and it's almost like everyone's like PA. And it's like, God, I would have crushed it.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I closed a government deal in a Brazilian steakhouse. Okay.
I
I
love it.
just closed a deal. That was like after the dinner. It's done. And I know tomorrow morning I'm going to get that thing all done in the paper. But then if you're asking me that night I go to my room and then I have to update the CRM and put things, all the details that were discussed, that's not going to happen, right? And the
100%.
next day I'm on a next deal or something, right? So I think there's a balance that leaders have to create there. Yeah.
100%. Honestly, Sandy, I could sit and chat to you for hours. I'm so intrigued with all of
Yeah.
your thoughts, processes,
Loving
but
it.
I do want to be conscious of your time and wrap up. But thank you so much for coming on. We've loved it and look forward to seeing you in the future.
Yeah, it was fun, Laura. And I was also a little bit apprehensive about it, but then it turned out to be really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Thanks.
great.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Thanks, Sandy.